Welcome back to my YouTube channel, you guys. Let's be real, we all want some BBL allegations without actually going through the BBL procedure, surgery, whatever. If that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. But personally, I just want to work out, but I want it to look like I've got a BBL. That's what we want. That's what everyone wants. Anyways, so I feel like there's a couple topics that are just not really explained to beginners that well, or they're just not explained at all. Like everyone's like, just go into the gym and, grow some fucking glutes, eat more, whatever. You guys have seen all my videos where I'm talking about that, and I'm always like, guys, you need to eat more, and this is how you need to train. And like, I've never really explained all of it. So we're gonna explain all of it in a lot of detail and just what you can actually do to start getting some BBL allegations, which is kind of just what we all want. So the first thing that you really want to focus on is hypertrophy training. So hypertrophy is a little bit different than just say strength training. And the difference is, so strength training, you're really trying to just get your strength up. So this is things like if you were in the gym and you're increasing the weight a lot, both of them are progressive overload, but what you would want to do is do like way less reps. So this is when you see people doing like 6 reps sometimes. Sometimes they're doing like, you can even challenge like your 1 rep max, which is essentially when you can only do 1 rep of something with a certain amount of weight and you can't do any more. That's like strength training. Like that's like training for strength. Like you're really trying to get your strength up. Your main goal is to be strong as fuck, which is not a bad goal. But when you're trying to get a BBL sort of glute vibe, that's not really what we're looking for. Like we're not looking for you to like injure yourself in the gym because you're like just lifting too much. Like just don't do that. It's just not a smart thing. So hypertrophy training is essentially a more controlled way of training. It's using about like 60 to, I think it's, yeah, 60 to 80% of your 1 rep max, which if you think about it is just something that you can do for like 8 to 12 reps. That's the rep range that you really want to stick to when you are training hypertrophy training. This is really going to honestly just increase your muscle size. So obviously when you're trying to grow your glutes, you're trying to increase muscle size. That's what you want to stick to. So you've probably seen tons of influencers when they're posting like their workouts and stuff. It's always like do 3 sets of like 8 to 12 reps or 8 to 10 reps or 10 to 12 reps. Like that's like the rep range that you want to stay in. If you guys don't know what a rep range is, it's essentially just the range of how many repetitions of each movement that you're doing. So say you're doing hip thrusts, you're doing 3 sets. So a set would be the reps. So how do I explain this so it's not confusing to all my stoner followers? Let me explain this. So you're doing hip thrust. You're going to do 3 sets. In between each set, you're going to have a rest time. So either a minute, 2 minutes, you can go all the way up to 5 minutes, depends on your training. So you're going to do 8 to 12 reps of hip thrusts in each set. So you're going to do 8 to 12, 8 to 12, 8 to 12. Does that make sense? Yes. Is everyone following? Perfect. Okay. So when you are training 8 to 12 reps, you still want to use progressive overload. But when you're training hypertrophy, like you're really focused on form, you're really focused on mind muscle connection, which is a lot of what I talk about in all my content. And this is really going to make sure that you're targeting that muscle. So for instance, you're targeting your glutes. You really want to slow down your reps. You want to make sure that the weight isn't too heavy, but the last couple reps, you're going to be pretty tired and it's going to be a struggle. Like you do still want to struggle. You don't want it to be like completely easy. And you want to keep the tension on that muscle as well. So when you're doing, say, hip thrusts, if you have like an 8 to 10 or 8 to 12 rep range, So it's like once you get up to 8, so say you have a certain amount of weight on, once you get up to 8, great. Once you get up to 10, then you probably want to increase your weight until you can get back up to 10. So increase your weight, do 8 reps, and then eventually, obviously, your muscles are going to adapt and they're going to be like, oh shit, she's adding more weight. Obviously, we need to get bigger and we need to support this weight. So they're going to grow. And then you can just keep doing that and keep adding weight. But there is a certain point, like, obviously we can't lift a fucking million pounds, you guys. So there's a certain point when you're just gonna like slow down. This is the thing about training for long periods of time. So first of all, your glutes aren't gonna grow in like 2 weeks, you guys. It takes years, it takes time. But when you're training for years, your body starts to get used to what you're training and it starts to get used to how you're training. And, so this is why people like change up their training. You can change up your reps, you can change up your tempo. But you really need to like shock your body sometimes. So sometimes we'll hit a plateau. So a lot of the girls that are on my app, listen to this closely because you guys have been on there for about a year and a half, and a lot of you have been really consistent. You might feel like at this point you're gonna hit a plateau. Once you hit this plateau, you need to change up your training or your diet, or something needs to change drastically in order for your body to keep adapting to it and keep changing. So a lot of times when I feel like I've hit a plateau in my training, I'll be like, okay, that's it. I'm gonna go into a bulk or I'm gonna go into a cut, and I really change my reps and sometimes I can change my whole workout, like my whole program. You guys know I'm pretty basic though. Like I usually like to stick to my compounds, and we're gonna get into that, by the way. If you don't know what a compound exercise is, I will explain it so you guys know. But yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to either add more cardio, less cardio. Like you really have to like our bodies adapt to things so quickly. So you really have to like change. Like you gotta be like, yo, we're not doing this forever, okay? Okay, let's talk about cardio for a second because I feel like this is so related to growing glutes. So you guys have probably seen my entire YouTube video on cardio, and if you have, great. If you haven't, I will give you a low-key explanation just on cardio. So when you're growing your glutes, here's the issue that I see with most girls that I talk to. I actually get a lot of girls come up to me in different gyms, be like, oh my God, your glutes look great. How did you do that? And most of the time, I can tell right away if girls are doing too much cardio or they're not eating enough. That's like the main issue, you guys. So if you are like, oh shit, like as soon as I said that, you're probably like, I'm definitely doing too much cardio because my glutes haven't grown, or, I'm not eating enough. You will know because, and it's a matter of trusting the process. So I know it's like a scary thing. I actually have had clients where they've come to me and I've been like, you need to slow down. And they're like, oh my God, but I want to lose weight. And I'm like, no, but like your body needs a break, or they need a rest, or like you're overtraining, that kind of thing. A lot of girls are just doing too much cardio, and it's like, think about it. If you're doing way too much cardio and you're walking all the time, but at the same time, you're trying to build muscle, that's never going to work. Like your body's going to be like, well, you're doing all this cardio, so I'm shedding all the fat. But eventually, when you're doing too much cardio, you're also going to be shedding all the muscle. Plus, in order to grow muscle, you need to eat enough. And if you're doing a bunch of cardio, all those calories are just going to be burned, and then you're going to feel really weak in your lifts, like in your compound lifts and stuff. So just slow down on the cardio if you are doing a ton of cardio, or if you're doing a lot of like HIIT workouts, or like low key cardio. They call it, I think it's LISS cardio, so it's like low intensity cardio or something. I'm not very technical, if you guys have noticed. I understand, but I'm not technical at all. If you feel like you're doing a lot of cardio, if you feel like your glutes are not growing, that is probably the reason. So try to put more of your efforts into hypertrophy training. So things like, doing hip thrusts and that kind of thing. let's talk about how to structure your workout if you want a BBL vibe. Compound exercises. I don't think I've really gone too in depth on compound exercises, but if you've seen any influencer stuff, I'm sure you guys are all in the fitness space of Instagram. If you're not, or on TikTok, if you're not, you'll see a lot of girls doing, say, hip thrusts, squats, even bench press. So those are all compound exercises. So what that means is it's just using a lot more of your muscles than just one muscle or one muscle group. So if you think about a squat, you're probably using your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes. Your core is like engaged because you have to keep that engaged. I mean, even like your back, like the bar is sitting on your traps and stuff. So your back is engaged. Like it is using so many of your muscles. So that's going to take the most amount of energy. So when you're structuring your workouts, if you put squats at the very end, you're going to go and do squats at the end of your workout and be like, how the fuck am I supposed to do squats after I just did all these exercises because now I'm exhausted. So you want to structure it like that. You want to structure your squats first or your hip thrusts first. So for myself, I've actually had a lot of people ask why I put hip thrusts first and why I don't really do squats. I've been working on squats, but if I'm being honest, it's not my priority because it just isn't. I just have never loved squats, to be honest with you. Sometimes they can hurt my back. I feel like sometimes my form is off. And I just love form. So like if my form is going to be off for something, I'm going to be like, either I work on it, which I feel like I spent a lot of time working on it, and then I just got bored of working on it and I was like, fuck this. And yeah, anyways, so I have a lot of people ask why I do hip thrusts first. And they're like, I don't really understand that. And here's why. So when you're structuring your workout, what I want to grow is my glutes. So my very first exercise is going to be very glute focused, but I also want to make sure that it's a compound exercise. So the most glute focused compound exercise, hip thrusts. So why would I not put that first? I've also seen, lots of other girls that have had amazing results and they did hip thrusts like 3 times a week. It was always their first exercise. And this was me trusting the process. So years ago, when I saw a couple girls doing that, I was like, oh, I'm going to try this. Like, let me just try, see what happens. I did it for like a year and my glutes just went insane, you guys. Like, it was crazy. That's the thing, is you have to trust the process. But anyways, that's why I do hip thrusts first usually, is that's what I'm trying to grow. So in hypertrophy training, what you want to do is you want to know what you're actually going to grow. So if you're really focused on growing your back, you should be like doing back probably at least 2 times a week, at least. Starting with your main exercises, so things like pull-ups, even like lat pull-downs are really good, barbell rows, that kind of thing. So for glutes, obviously I'm going to start with hip thrusts. And then after that, I like to structure my workouts. And I think the most effective way is doing a couple compound exercises, but you want to keep. So I've talked to a lot of people, and obviously, like, we learned this in like personal training school and whatever. So when you're structuring your workout, you want a hip hinge movement, a squat movement, some sort of like lunge or like single leg vibe, and then you want to go into your isolation movements. So I would do hip thrusts. That's like my hip hinge vibe. Sometimes I just go straight into RDLs because I'm just a hip hinge girly, I guess. I just like it. Then I would go into like sumo squats because that's my squat variation that I like. And then maybe some sort of step up or deficit lunge, some kind of lunge. And then your isolation things. So kickbacks, 45-degree glute focused hyperextensions, That way, the reason that you put the isolation ones at the very end is you're targeting like one muscle or muscle group kind of vibe. So when you've done all your fucking compounds and you're like, I'm exhausted, let's just kill my glutes. And that's what you do. You do your kickbacks, probably lighter weight. Obviously, you're going to move up eventually, but like, I think I was starting with like 10 fucking pounds, you guys. So I also have a ton of clients coming to me, and or I did when I was like taking a lot of clients. I had a lot of them trying to move up in weight way too fast. And it's like you need to get the form down. Otherwise, you're going to be kicking back and you're going to be using your back muscles. And it's like, when are you going to grow your glutes if you're using your fucking back to do kickbacks? You know, that doesn't make any sense, does it? It doesn't make sense, you guys. Okay, let's talk about frequency. So, frequency, like how often should you be training? How many times should you be training for glutes, for a BBL allegation at some point in your life? If I'm being honest, when I was growing my glutes, it was 3 times a week. I would say 2 or 3 times a week. I felt like recently I've taken it down to 2 times a week just because I feel like my back is acting up, but also I feel like I needed to change and I was getting really exhausted with just training that often plus running the business. Like I was just getting too busy. And here's the thing is I want you guys to remember that we're not all training to be bodybuilders. Like, yes, I'm telling you guys how to get these BBL allegations and get a BBL and whatever. But you have to remember that like a lot of this is just for health. So if you have to take a week off and you have to take some time off, like you're not, and even tracking food, I don't track food because I'm not competing. If one day I decide to compete, amazing. I will start tracking my food. But until then, that just sounds really toxic to me and it sounds like something that I don't care enough about to do. So you guys have to remind yourself that a lot of these girls that you're seeing online and a lot of these girls that, well, first of all, a lot of them are on like some sort of steroid or something. You can't really stay that lean unless you're like literally like it just is so not healthy, you guys. We're not supposed to be that lean all the time. But also just remind yourself that you're not competing. Like the only person that you're competing with is yourself, but also a lot of us are just doing this for health. Like we're just wanting to be healthier. Yes, we're trying to grow our glutes, and yes, that will happen if you're very consistent, but don't get down on yourself if you have to take a week off, or you have to take a couple days off, or you can't make it to the gym for a little bit, or you have a fucking vacation and you don't want to work out on your vacation. I love training on my vacations because I love trying new gyms, but that doesn't mean everyone likes to, and that doesn't mean that you have to, you know? But for frequency, yeah, I would say 2 to 3 times a week for glutes. I just don't want you guys to forget about upper body as well. Like your upper body is so important because it creates that hourglass figure, but also you won't be able to lift as much weight for your legs if your upper body is not keeping up. So you have to make sure that your upper body has kept up. So having some sort of 4 or 5 day split, if you guys want some 4 or 5 day splits, let me know. I used to post about them all the time. I haven't posted about them in a bit, but just let me know. Okay, I know I've talked about protein a lot, but let's talk about how much protein you actually need to eat. So let's talk about for me. I don't track anything. However, I try to get protein in every single meal. Like if I don't have protein, I'm like, I need protein. Where do I get this fucking protein? But if you guys are tracking and you want like some sort of goal or something to work towards, I like to think of it, and the way that I do it is you work towards your goal weight. So if you're wanting to gain weight because you want to grow your glutes, remember, in order to gain muscle, like you have to gain some weight. Like fuck the scale, first of all. but you do have to gain some weight in order to gain muscle. Otherwise, it's not gonna, like, logically think about that, you guys. It's not gonna grow if you're not gaining weight. So if you're scared to gain weight, your glutes aren't gonna grow. Like, it's just not gonna work. So don't be scared to gain a little bit of weight. Trust me, usually ends up in the right places if you're training right. But if you are, so you want to go for your goal weight in grams of protein. So for me, I'm about 160 right now. That's my weight. If I wanted to grow my glutes even more, I would probably go up to like 165, 170 even. And I would have to eat 165 to 170 grams of protein a day. A day, you guys, a day. If you're skipping out on your days, even on your rest days, then you're not going to gain enough and it's not going to work. Also, make sure you're eating your carbs because carbs are going to help you gain. I think this is probably where a lot of people will fall off of this YouTube video because they'll be like, I don't want to gain weight. But here's the thing, like, how bad do you want the BBL allegations? How bad do you want these glutes? If you don't want them, don't eat enough. Don't watch this YouTube video. Don't follow any of the tips that I've done. If you want some glutes, that's what you have to do. It's crazy because I do have so many girls and I have a lot of questions on Instagram and I get a lot of DMs on TikTok even. And people are like, or I see a lot of girls post in the Facebook group and they're always like, how do you grow your glutes? How do you grow your glutes? Like, I feel like I'm, not eating enough and whatever. And the reality is you're probably not eating enough. You're probably not eating enough. You're probably not training hard enough. You're probably not training in the right ways. I see girls putting like 4 or 5 plates on the freaking Smith machine when they're doing hip thrusts and their form is so bad. And it's like your other muscles are compensating for what your glutes are not pushing up. And if you're not eating enough, there's no way that you'll be able to lift that much. So it's a whole thing that you guys have to kind of figure out for yourself. Obviously, if you guys are in the app, you can throw the questions into the group chat. I'm in there all the time, or you can DM me straight on the group chat on the app. Like, you guys can private message me on the app. I'm on there all the time. I get all the notifications if you need some help with like what you should be eating, how you should be eating, or just how you should be training. But obviously, all the programs on the app are like, most of the programs are pretty glute focused because I'm a glute girl. That's what I do. I want to talk about timeline with you guys. I get so many girls being like, how long did you train to grow your glutes? How long did you, like, I actually just answered a message on TikTok or a reply on TikTok, like one of the comments. And the girl said, how long did you train? Like, I always see girls like you and it's so unrealistic and blah, blah, blah. It's realistic. It just takes a couple years. Like, it takes a long time, but I think that people don't realize like it's so worth it. And you're not just working on your glutes, you're also working on yourself. Like, I have had so much just like mental and emotional growth from the gym. But I've also had some glute growth, which is such a fucking bonus. But that's the thing is, it's not going to take like 8 weeks to grow them. It's not going to take a simple 8-week challenge. You might see some results, especially if you're new to training, because your body changes really fucking quick when you're actually doing the right things. But in order to like get that drastic, like you guys have seen on Instagram where people go from like pancake to like crazy, that's going to take a couple years and a couple, like, you're going to have to fuck around a bit in the gym and you're going to have to change your workouts and change your programs and change your routines. That's why I'm constantly updating the app, because I want you guys to have access to that and actually like be able to, cut if you wanted to or bulk if you wanted to. Like, you're able to do that. But don't expect it to be tomorrow. Don't expect it to be within the next week. Don't expect you to like increase your diet and then all of a sudden have some glutes. Like, you do need to eat more, but it's not just going to be that simple. Like, you have to watch what you're eating and whatever. And it's so important to remember that you're not competing. Like, it's not a competition. You're not, getting on stage and like whatever. Like, it's literally just you being consistent with it and focusing on what you need to focus on. Anyways, I hope this helps you guys get some BBL allegations. If you ever get them, please fucking comment, because that would be so just amazing. How do I say that? Rewarding. It would be so rewarding to know that this video helped you. Yeah, love you guys. Subscribe, like, comment, subscribe again, make another account, subscribe. We are trying to grow this channel as much as we can. We're putting so much effort into all of it. A lot of time goes into editing, filming, everything. And we appreciate you guys so much. Like, honestly, yeah, I'll see you guys in the group chat and the Facebook group. Love you. Bye.